The money fight of the century between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather has just come to a definitive conclusion, and joining me here today, guys, to discuss our review for Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather's my good friend DevilArtemis. As we are going to go in depth with this fight again, I want to get your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below as to what you guys thought about this fight. Now, this fight was talked about ever since 2016, even a little bit before that when we saw Conor in the UFC, talking about how there was little to no competition, how he was thinking of going into the boxing realm and having to, square up with Floyd Mayweather. So, Devil, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Now, first things first, I don't know about you, but to me, this was a more enjoyable fight than what we saw between Floyd and Pacquiao. Now, given Conor's reputation on having this be his first major boxing, match within the world of boxing, even though we've seen, matches with him and his sparring partners before, I wanted to get your thoughts on this fight early on, because if I had to just weigh in my opinion, early on, Conor looked like he really wasn't going in there, and I remember as we were going through rounds, he made the claims that he was going to end it within 4 rounds. After the 4th round, I mean, going into the first 2 rounds, I knew right off the bat that Conor was not going to end this within 4 rounds, because to me, I felt as if Conor was a much more slower paced fighter, and having, to see what came out of this, we saw a definitive end between Conor and Floyd as it ended around the 10th round with Conor McGregor having to be very, very fatigued after having to take so many shots by Mayweather in the 9th and 10th round. What did you think about this fight, and what are your thoughts on the overall outcome?
Well, first off, man, thank you for having me on the channel, bro.
Always, bro.
This fight, man, I agree with you. Definitely more entertaining than Pacquiao. I am a huge fan of Pacquiao, but this fight, the beginning of the fight, it was more so 2 fresh fighters not knowing each other in the arena. They've never fought each other.
Right.
They've never, they've only seen each other fight on TV. McGregor obviously having the disadvantage because he doesn't have any of the boxing experience that Mayweather does. Now, there were a few things on both fighters' sides that kind of gave them, the negative odds. Conor being that he doesn't have the experience, he probably also doesn't have the stamina, and Mayweather being that Conor's a lot bigger and has McGregor, you saw the reach, because Mayweather was trying, especially with the body shots. He was literally leaping in there. He was lunging in there just to get a few body shots, and it didn't work at times. But what about the hammer strikes? Because I legitimately thought the referee was going to take some points off, because there was there were several rounds actually where Conor was throwing hammer strikes from the top and the back of the head, and you can clearly see that he is in this MMA mentality, because as soon as they were clinching, bro, you can see it upon Conor's expression that he wanted to take him down. He even wrapped him up a couple of times and wanting to, just take him down. So what did you think about that? Because there were several times where obviously they were clinching, just to catch your breath. But Conor, I felt the tension come from him as he wanted to just, take him down via Muay Thai or, some sort of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu takedown. But, you can't do that. So what did you think about that entire ordeal? Well, I mean, even though Floyd was, in retirement for 2 years, came out of retirement for this fight, his fight with Conor was explosive near the ending of the fight in the later rounds. In the beginning of the rounds, Conor was throwing out heavy punches, but the heavy punches that you expect from him, it's kind of like they didn't hit as hard as another boxer would.
Of course.
And the difference between them is Conor doesn't have that boxing experience.
Right.
He was throwing those hammer fists. What do they call it? Rabbit punches or rabbit strikes, something like that.
The rapid punches. Well, I mean, he was jabbing.
Rabbit.
He had a few very good, I would say, jabs and maybe a few uppercuts. I think it was between the 5th or 6th round where Conor caught him with a very good body shot. But I don't know about you, but how did you feel about Conor not executing when he needed to? Because there were several times where I think he could have had him. There was an opening, but he just didn't execute. What did you think about that?
Well, I'm talking about the rabbit punches. I think that's when they punched them in the back of the head. The hammer fisting.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. For the hammer, to answer the previous question, the hammer punches that he was giving, all that is from experience from his MMA.
Of course. He was still in that background. Yeah.
To answer your second question, same thing as the first. Conor has that MMA experience. So when he got that body shot, on Mayweather, and he saw that it did a lot of damage. Conor didn't capitalize. He didn't know, okay, now's my time to go in and hit him with the flurries or hit him with these heavy shots. Conor doesn't have that experience. He doesn't have the boxing experience. This man does not have the instinct to box like Mayweather does. If Mayweather hits Conor with a hard right and he sees Conor stagger, he knows that that's his time to go in and like throw in some swag. You know what I'm saying? Like punch him, kick his ass. You know, Conor doesn't have that flow. He doesn't have that suave to know like, all right, now's my time, you know, to get in there, because he's weak, he's staggering. That left hook that I just threw hit him right in the fucking gut. He's staggering in that corner in pain. Now's my time to capitalize upon the situation. He didn't do that. Conor does not know how to capitalize situation. Mayweather has that experience. And what really won Mayweather this fight was his stamina, which is one, the most important, is endurance. That's one, his stamina. And second, his experience. Conor lacked both of those. He lacked experience and stamina. So obviously, you know, the only thing Conor had on his side, plain and simple, was range. That's it. His range. That's the only thing. He didn't have the offense. He had good defense. He did. He had defense and range, but he didn't have offense, which is what scores you points.
Yes,
so he didn't. You know, doesn't have. He landed like almost. He only landed 20% of his power shots.
28%. Yeah,
like 21%. I think it was. He only landed like 20%. He did garbage the whole fight with his power shots. Landed nothing.
Mayweather, I think, landed about 50.
Yeah,
was it 50
56.
or 40? Yeah, 56. Yeah, 56.
56%. So this man Conor didn't land shit. He dodged some stuff, but because he was dodging and not really attacking, he was just running around, moving around. He didn't do anything, bro. He just tired himself out. Floyd was smarter. He knows that his opponent is taller than him. He knows his opponent has more reach, and he even said it himself. We tire him out in the beginning, and at the end,
he capitalized. Yeah. Well, I think for me, for you, we have to give Conor respect, and I give Conor loads of respect for this, because it takes balls having to transition from one sport to another. We've seen that done various different times before, between wrestlers going into MMA, with MMA fighters having to go into wrestling, with boxing, and you know, just MMA, with so many transitions. And for Conor to step in there with, whether you like it or not, the best, you know, boxer alive today, which you can't argue with, because, you know, his record speaks for itself, you know, having to go up with one of the best boxers, if anything, the best boxer in the world, you have to give him respect for that. Even though I understand you don't talk, you know, smack about a guy and threatening to, you know, go into his house and cause damage. I mean, Conor went there, but ultimately enough, and having to see what, you know, how Floyd fought in the pocket and stuff, it was with precision. And for me, this was a much more enjoyable fight than the fight with Pacquiao, and I love Pacquiao, I really do. But just having to compare those two fights, the Pacquiao fight was boring. This fight in the beginning, I would say, like in the first 2 rounds, maybe the first round only, it was a bit boring, because, you know, it was just starting, so obviously the fighters had to like warm up. But as the rounds kept going, round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think I thought at that time, like, okay, well, Conor, he's really going in there. You know, his unorthodox style, you can tell he was not. Yeah, he was not fully prepped for boxing, because there were several times where he wanted to take him down, and I think if this was an MMA fight, this would have ended in the first round. But given the experience going into the, I would say the 8th, or at least the 7th, 8th, 9th round, you can clearly tell Conor was getting tired out. And I think that was Conor's biggest weakness, was fatigue. I think that Conor could have gone 12 rounds. I'm not so sure if either part, I'm pretty sure if he were to build up more on that, because remember, as you just said, it was his first experience, you know, having to box, you know, one of the best boxers, you know, alive right now. I think that in terms of going the mile or going the extra distance, he could have done it. He could have done so. He had about, what was it, about 6 more minutes to do so, 3 for each, and he was in the 10th round. So I think
look
that,
at it like this. Let me tell you this. Like, Conor versus Mayweather. Mayweather happens to be probably the best defensive boxer.
Oh no, of course, yeah, dude, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. He's not Mike Tyson. Don't get me wrong. He's not a knockout artist, bro. You know, because there's a big difference. Yeah.
Let's compare the Pacquiao fight versus Mayweather versus Conor and Mayweather. All right.
Right.
Comparing those fights, Pacquiao has the technique, experience, and power. All right. The fact that they're both paired off with those skills, what won that fight was Mayweather's defense. Mayweather, like I said, is one of the best, you know, defensive boxers. So obviously, that won him the fight. In this fight, he doesn't need to be defensive, because Conor, like we said, we both agreed he wasn't capitalizing, right?
No, he wasn't capitalizing.
So he doesn't need that defense. So this is the first fight out of his retirement that we're seeing Mayweather throughout the middle rounds, round 4 or 5, where he started to become more offensive. He started to throw out heavy punches. He started to back up Conor into corners. Basically, they were running in circles because, and the one leading was Mayweather. Mayweather was pushing Conor in a circle, beating him down slowly, but hurting him. And Conor was not capitalizing. Now, like I said before, Pacquiao fight, way different. He was very defensive, very boring, but this fight was definitely entertaining, man. I think, honestly, I disagree with you in terms of thinking that Conor can go very far to round 12. Dude, he was done by round 9.
No, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, if given the experience, I'm sure that it could have gone 12 rounds. Even though I don't know about the outcome, whether it's a knockout, TKO, decision, I think that Conor even admitted, he could have, but he got fatigued, and fatigue plays a huge role. People, you saw that in Conor's legs. I noticed it around the 9th round because his legs started to get wobbly. But and even the commentators were pointing out that Conor, it wasn't used to going that far, and of course, when in MMA, there is a different way to, just get yourself out of that situation where you can clinch, where you can just hold a submission off or something, to where you can avoid, having to, just get more fatigued as the round kept going. And what I've noticed right before round 10 was, as they gave him water and his coaches were guiding him, he was breathing really heavy, and his eyes, he looked very tired. But then again, I started to notice that during like the 6th, 7th round, because if you notice, just based on the way they were breathing, Mayweather was breathing through his nose. He wasn't really huffing and puffing, but Conor was. So I don't want to knock his cardio, because I'm sure the guy, dude, he must have been training like a beast. Doing that stuff, doing that stuff, you have to give respect to both of these fighters, because they come from different worlds. But bro, it's not easy doing these things. Like, it's not like
it was his first fight.
Dude, it was his first fight against the best boxer in the world. It's not,
the world,
dude. You're not picking up a controller or playing a video game or doing some sort of like a review or just sitting on your butt being a keyboard warrior. No, this is like legitimate athletic shit that you're doing here, and against one of the best, you got to take your hats off to both. But in terms of Conor's future in the world of boxing, do you think he's gonna box again, or do you think he's gonna transition back into the MMA world?
No. He's definitely going to the MMA. Listen, man, Conor did well against Floyd, but I feel honestly that Conor, right now, as he stands now, I'm not saying he can't get better, but with the skill the performance that I saw today, he was garbage, man. I'm sorry. With
you mean him as a fighter, or do you mean like just overall?
As a boxer, not as a fighter.
As a boxer,
because listen, let me say this very clearly, very clearly. If this was Conor's rules and this was in the octagon, Floyd would have been fucking destroyed. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
If this was the octagon, Floyd would have went down in the first round.
Yes.
I guarantee you it would have been a TKO, bro. I swear to God, he would have destroyed Floyd Mayweather if this was the octagon. But as a boxer, Conor does not have it, bro. His instincts are too adapted to the octagon.
MMA, yeah,
MMA.
He's hitting. We saw that.
Yeah, the hammer strikes, bro. The
clinching. But it wasn't just regular clinching. It was more or less like, you can tell he wanted to put him in an arm bar or some sort of guillotine. He kept going behind him. He went behind him, and he kept giving him those hammer strikes. And I was like, boy, and hats off to the referee, man. The referee was warning this guy 1,000 times. He's like, yo, stop doing that. And I ordered the fight, you ordered the fight, and we were watching. And what's awesome about this, I think this was worthy of ordering, because it is what it is. Fights like this don't come around too often, and just seeing the conclusive decision for this fight, as we saw with the scoreboard, it was evident that once round 8, round 9, even round 7 came about, Floyd was getting in there. And Floyd, there was one thing I do want to point out. Obviously, yes, he's 40 years old. He's not the same fighter as he was when he was 30 or 20, or even, as he said just a few years ago. He was missing a lot. You cannot deny that. There were several moments where I saw Floyd with my own two eyes missing uppercuts. He was missing hooks, even slight jabs here and there. He was missing a lot, but he was able to maintain his composure and not draining or being fatigued. And to Conor's demise, man, he caught him just because of the fatigue. Now, I saw a lot of people talk about, well, if Conor would have had the opportunity to catch him with a good haymaker, that it would have been over. he had the opportunity several times. I mean, there were several openings where he just never capitalized. And for example, when he gave him that hard body shot, Floyd went into the corner. Yeah, Floyd went into the corner, and the crowd popped, dude. You heard it, and and he went in there and he clinched him, and I was like, oh man, that's that MMA mentality, bro.
Yeah. Listen, if he was gonna win that fight, that would have been his moment. If he was gonna knock out, if he would have knocked out Floyd Mayweather, okay? If he was gonna knock him out, it would have been at that moment when he got that mean ass body shot that the crowd went wild. Floyd was grasping that shit because you could tell he was hurt. Conor would have won at that moment, but he didn't because, again, like you said, he doesn't have that mentality. He has that MMA mentality, and he went. And what does he do? You strike an opponent, and you see that he has a weak spot, and you go and give him a hug. Like, come on.
Yeah. But then again, that's what he's trained for. He's a different animal, bro. And I understand where he comes from. But he even the real winners at the end of the day are McGregor and Floyd. Why? Because, bro, money speaks. Over $100 million for Conor. Well over, what is it, $200-300 million for Floyd. Think about that kind of a number. If you're not spending that kind of money on hookers and cocaine tonight, something's wrong with you, man. Like some Master Roshi kind of style. So, you know, they're the real winners in this. And hats off to both. I think that, and it is Floyd's final fight. It really is. And what sucks is, I mean, in this generation today, we're not going to get any more Mike Tysons. Like, things like this won't come around too often. Hopefully they do. And I hope that the fans take a minute to respect both fighters. Mayweather for having to hone his craft in boxing for well over 20 years, competing as an Olympian during that one session in his early career. Conor coming up as well as the underdog, fighting in the indies, like in the indies as I call it, and then having to make his way into the professionals. And, you know, for a guy like him to transition from MMA and UFC into boxing, huge respect for that, man. But as I said before, where do you see Conor immediately going back into MMA? Because I have a feeling that maybe, and just maybe, we might see him again in the world of boxing. Maybe against an like an up-and-coming fighter, or maybe up against a veteran. Who's to really say for sure? But you know, having to see Conor in the world of boxing at least one more time, do you ever see him going up against the veteran or some up-and-comer, or do you definitively feel, in your opinion, that he's going back to MMA and he's going to stay there forever, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think, like I said before, I don't think that Conor has what it takes to be a boxer in his position now. If he comes back to boxing and he does, you know, do some fighting, and he's improved, and he's able to capitalize and able to punish correctly, things like that, then yeah, maybe he has already some things that boxers need. You know, he has the defense, he has the reach. He just needs the technique, the experience, and the stamina, you know? Right. But to say the last thing, you know, before we go is that I think, honestly, Floyd Mayweather can be the best boxer of all time right now, right? And in my opinion, I think he's probably the greatest of all time right now. Retiring 50-0, man has money, defeated everybody who was down on his path, all right? Yeah, but that doesn't mean, for Conor McGregor fans, it doesn't mean that he can't be the greatest in his sport. Just because he can't perform, or he didn't perform up to, you know, up to par with what the fans expected of him in boxing, doesn't mean that tomorrow or next week he won't go fight in MMA and kick somebody straight in their fucking jaw and knock them out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, plus like he's gained that experience now with boxing. So once he takes that to the UFC, but you know, and again, hats off to Conor, hats off to Floyd. It was a really enjoyable fight. And I think that with Conor's style, it did give Floyd a bit of a run for his money, because he didn't know what to expect. He kept getting clinched, and you know, all these unorthodox, like very unorthodox style punches. He was a counter puncher to a degree, and we saw like the switching in his footing as he was transitioning with his footing. He was throwing shots too, so it was pointed out by the commentators. It was very, very different in what we saw, because it was like, holy crap, you know, you're not watching two boxers, you're watching an MMA fighter and a boxer, you know, step to it. So when it came to fighting in the pocket, you know, I think that Floyd had it. When it came to certain offensive maneuvers, Floyd had it. You know, even in the beginning, I would say Conor had it, but he just didn't capitalize. And it's just like, when you needed to throw those haymakers, he should have threw them, but ultimately enough, it was a very enjoyable fight. So post your comments down below, guys. What did you guys think of Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather? Was this the Goku versus Vegeta of boxing, or was this a little underperformed for you guys? What are your overall thoughts and opinions going into the future of Floyd and Conor. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the boxing fight and the review, go ahead and slap a like down below. If you guys have not subscribed, be sure to go ahead and punch that subscribe button, guys. Turn on notifications. Subscribe to DevilArtemis as well, guys. Link down below, and we'll be seeing you all in the comments. Take it easy, guys. Peace.